Hello beautiful scrappy friends, I am so happy to be back to share some new content with you today. This is a video that I recorded a little while ago, and I will be honest, I'm a little bit rusty when it comes to recording voiceovers and editing videos, so I hope you will excuse me any slip-ups or kerfuffles along the way. As I said, I created this video a little while ago, and it's actually, I'm creating two layouts at once, one with a photo of my son and one with a photo of my daughter, and these are going to be companion pages for a layout that I created quite some time ago, and in just a moment I will share a little picture of that companion layout up in the top right hand corner. So I've got two sets of papers. I'm using the Crepe Paper Magical Forest collection, and I've sorted them out into two separate color palettes. One is going to be for the page for my daughter, and the other is going to be for the page for my son. And the papers that I've chosen coordinate with the papers in the original layout, which you can see up in the top right now. I had a really clear design idea for these pages, or for this page, and I knew that I wanted to create kind of like a pie chart look, but with some spacing in between, so I guess more like a fan. I don't think I've actually created anything like this before, so I've tried to make it simple for myself, which probably looks a little bit complicated right now, but I wanted to have some uniformity in the way that I was creating these little fan pieces. So I just grabbed my compass, drew a circle that was roughly the circumference of what I wanted the fan pieces to be. Circumference, diameter, I can't remember. And then I've used my ruler to line out some segments. I've numbered those segments so that I know which order they go in. I'm going to use my scissors to cut them out, and then this will form my template. And I don't include this on camera, but off screen I go and I lay each of these pieces onto the back of the pattern papers and then cut them out, number the back of them so that I know what order they go back into, and then they are all ready to go. Now you'll see that some of the pieces had squiggly lines in them, and those are the pieces that I know that I don't need to cut, because those are the spaces between each of these little pie pieces or fan pieces or whatever it is that you might want to call them. So there I have my template pieces. I decided that I didn't like the curved edges on them, the rounded edges. So I'm just going and cutting those straight off with my scissors before I cut the pieces from patterned paper. And in just a moment, with the magic of video editing, you're going to see me come on here ready to get all of these pieces on. So I'm going to work on my daughter's layout in this video, and then at the end I will show you the finished product of the layout that I created for my son. But I just quickly showed you there all of the pieces that I had cut out from the patterned paper, and now I'm going to create my background, which is going to be the base for building this layout. If you have watched any of my previous videos, you will know that I love to create on nice bright white backgrounds, and I almost always mat those white backgrounds onto some patterned paper. So that's what I'm just getting ready to do here. I've trimmed my white paper down to, I think it's probably about 11.5 inches by 11.5 inches. Then I've got my 12 by 12 paper, and I've just gutted the center, leaving a 1-inch border around the outside so that I've got something to adhere it to. I'm going to use my wet adhesive. That's my favorite way to get this background on, because it does give me just a little bit of wiggle room if I need to shift anything around if it's not quite straight. So I've got that background created now, and I'm going to figure out where each of these pieces are going to go. So the photo of my daughter, I have already matted onto some plain white cardstock, which is again one of my trademarks. And I'm using that photo just as a guide for where to start placing those fan pieces. And as I mentioned in the beginning, these are all numbered, so there's no guesswork for me about what order they're going in. And it's really just a matter of getting them positioned in the right place. Once I'm happy with the positioning, I'm going to come in and I'm going to add just a tiny bit of wet adhesive, or wet glue, I think I'm using wet glue. No, I'm going to use a tape runner. I'm just using a little bit of tape runner underneath each of those. It is just to hold them in place. I don't need to adhere them down really firmly because I have got a plan to add some stitching on all of these. So just a light tack is all it needs, just to keep them in position. And then in just a moment, I'm going to bring in my ruler again and a really light pencil. I have a really light, I think it's a 4H pencil, so it's a really light lead, and I'm just drawing a line or ruling a line down the center of each of those pieces to use as a guide to pierce some holes for stitching. So that is, those lines are just a guide, and I'm just marking out here where my photo finishes so that I don't pierce and stitch more than I need to. Got my little piercing mat, and then I'm just eyeballing these. I think it's probably about 1/4 of an inch apart are the spaces, but I have done this quite a lot, and I've gotten pretty good at eyeballing spacing there. So you can see I've gone a little bit further off onto the white background, and I just like the look of that. And now that they're all stitched down in the color of thread that I've used coordinates with the thread that I used in the original layout to stitch around the heart pieces. And then to give this some more texture and some more visual interest, I'm just using my fingernails to run along the edges of each of those pieces and just lift it up a little bit. It gives it a little bit of a distressed look, it adds a little bit of dimension, and it certainly makes it look more dynamic and more visually appealing than if they were to lay flat down on the page. And now the fun part, which is also the part that usually takes me the longest in the layout. I am going to get stuck into adding all of my elements down and get stuck into embellishing. So I picked this, it's not a white background, it's not even cream, it's more of it's an off-white, it's a grey white, but it has these cute little love heart polka dots, and I've chosen to matte or create a frame around my photo using those. And then I've got this peachy coloured or tan coloured floral, which is going to sit just a really thin border behind that, and that just helps that helps to bring the photo up off the page. I've used some foam, it's not double, it is adhesive on one side. Here we go, I'm tripping up on my words already. I've used some foam to lift that photo back off the background. Again, it's about giving some visual interest, adding some depth and some different layers to my layout. I use my T-square ruler to get that nice and straight because I do love things to be nice and straight. I went through all of the embellishments for this collection and did the same thing that I did at the start of the video with the papers. I've just gone and pulled out embellishments that will work with the color scheme for my son's layout, and then also some embellishments that will work with the color scheme for my daughter's layout. This piece here, which was from one of the cut apart sheets, it was just a block with a little quote on it saying "love you to the moon and back," but I'm actually turning that into a tag using an eyelet and my crocodile and my corner chomper. So I've just cut the edges off the top corner, and now I'm going to punch a hole and pop an eyelet in, and that's actually going to serve as the title for my page. So I'm just going to set that eyelet now. I've chosen a coordinating pink to go through, and obviously I'll use a different color on the layout for my son, but because the collection comes with 2 sheets of all the papers, I do have 2 of these cut apart elements, so that is actually going to be the title on both pages. You can just see me fiddling around there with the crocodile. I don't use it very often, so every time I do pull it out, it's a little bit of a learning curve again to figure out how to use it. There's not going to be any journaling on this page. It is pretty straightforward. It was just documenting these really cute photos that I took of my kids. It was a couple of years ago now, and there is a little bit of journaling on the page that they're going to be accompanying. So I'm just going to create a cluster here to the bottom left of my photo, and then there'll be another cluster to the top right. I'm not adhering to the rule of 3s on this layout. I'm just framing the photo because I think that the fan element on the background does really help to draw the eye into the photo anyway. So the visual triangle, which is something that we tend to ascribe to in design when we're creating our pages, it doesn't really need to apply here because we already have enough that is drawing our eye into that photo on the layout. Now, these little girl and the little boy figurines, not something that I would typically use in one of my layouts, but they were there and I thought, you know what, let's just chuck them on. Let's just get them on the page. And that wildflower is from one of the Thickers title sheets, and you can see that over on the left there I've got the Oh My Darling, which is what will go onto my son's layout. So because I am layering this little tag piece underneath the top part of the photo, so on top of the foam, I do need to add just a little bit of dimensional adhesive to the outside edge of the tag, just to stop it from bending and to keep it laying flat on the page. I've added a little bit of white twine there, and I think I will come in a little while and tie that into a bow. And just grabbing some more little embellishments and tucking them in, just trying to find some balance. I sort of tend to keep going until I find something that I think works. Now, I did lose a little bit of footage there. I'm not sure what happened. There was something wrong with the footage when I imported it, so you haven't really missed much. I'm just starting to adhere down some of these gold stars, there was some of them in the sticker pack and some of them in the Thickers sticker pack. So this is the final touches of embellishing. I just like to add a few little sprinkles. These clear stickers from the sticker pack are not always super easy to use, but because I do like to use a white background, it does make it a little bit easier to tuck them in. And just use them as little finishing pieces. So once I've added these few last bits and pieces, that will be it for this layout. I have got some close-up photos coming at the end of this layout, and then right at the end, if you stick around, you will see the almost identical page that I created for my son. So that's 2 photos, 2 pages, done and dusted and ready to get popped away. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Thank you so much for coming back to my channel, or if you're new here, thank you for visiting. I will leave it there and say I hope you have a great day.